years crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die, and the odds ain't looking too pretty. But I got the feeling it's my time. I know I'm taking it now. Price of blood, sweat and tears, and I never looked for salvation. I worked for this for all these years, and I wouldn't break or back down. No. I fought through all my fears and all of my frustrations. I see the light is getting clear. I know I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now. I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now. I'm taking it now. It's my time, I'm taking it now. Whoa.
Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We are here. This is Countdown to Green. I'm Camille Salazar-Hadaway, joined with our analysts, Alan Cavada and Brandon Cattell, and we are here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. We are ready to go tonight. How are you two doing? Are you excited for our first dirt race of the season?
Oh, I'm doing great. Looking at that shot and seeing the dirt on Bristol, seeing how it looks in iRacing, beautiful. Been watching some of the practices, coming in well as we talk about, using the language of dirt track. It's really cool tonight.
Guys, it's Bristol, baby. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see people beat and bang. I'm ready for tempers to flare. It's Bristol, baby.
It's Bristol, baby, but we have to wait before we get into all the action of the night. And first, catch you up to speed on everything that went down in Richmond.
Down and in, it's Taylor Hurst field to control as we say, let's go racing in Richmond. Caution at lap number 10 in this race. It is Malik Ray. Clifford's gonna get tagged. He's now into the outside fence. Green flag back in the air. We are racing at lap number 26 of 130. They are all in. This is wholesale service throughout the field. Curling 2 tires only. 3 wide. Oh, and there's contact and a spinner. Ray Alfala around and into the outside wall. 3 wide bound, and that doesn't work. Salas gets tagged into the outside wall. Put the right foot down. Green flag back in the air.
Big wreck off at turn number 2. Briar LeBrad.
And we'll have a restart inside of the final 5.
Conti on the gas pedal, though. Not a great restart for Bolin.
And Michael Conti finally gets his Richmond win.
There you have it. Conti won our last race. Now, Brandon, what were your thoughts on Richmond?
My thoughts on Richmond, Camille. If we look at all 4 races this season so far, I think we have proven we've seen the best car, the best driver out of them all. It's Michael Conti. Michael Conti has been leading the way each race. And there was a lot of strategy last week. If you saw the race, we've seen people take 2 tires, 4 tires, seen him stay out. We've seen a lot of different strategies, but Michael Conti still came up top. There was no doubt in my mind he had the fastest car last week. So if you look up in the Urban Dictionary right now, the word trouble, he is trouble for the field. Michael Conti is your guy right now.
Alan, you're hearing it. Trouble for the field. What were your thoughts on how Richmond went down? There were a lot of close calls and a lot of wall contact.
Absolutely, but who survived it all? Michael Conti. That's what this is all about. Look, what to me, the prevailing thought from Richmond is that Michael Conti is absolutely the forerunning favorite for the championship this season. And why? It's because checkered flags matter. And for him to collect 2 this early, it tells us that he can go out there and get them. Being a repeat winner, so tough in this series, he can go out and do that. And think about where he's won. He has won at a 1.5 miles and a short track. When I think ahead to the playoff, what do you see in that 4-race stretch? 1.5 miles, a short track. If he can do it now, he can certainly do it later. He is the forerunner for the championship. The field is already on notice this early in the season.
Well, why don't we take a look at the player standings and the points? Brandon, can you take us through that?
Yeah, let's take a look at the point standings here after 4 races. Michael Conti is going to be leading them here on the top of the board now with 2 wins. Steven Wilson's still right there in second. Take note of that. And Femi Olat still third in points. Look at this top 20. No rookies now. We had mentioned Parker Retzlaff being in the top 20 there for a little bit, but now we have no rookies in the top 20. The veterans are showing up. This is hard. This is hard for a rookie out there right now.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy for a rookie, but it's pretty good for Jim Beaver, right, Alan?
Oh, yeah. Look at the top of the standings. Jim Beaver Esports. Not a small team, obviously, but compared to some of the bigger names that we see in the NASCAR world, I mean, to see Jim Beaver Esports on top, that's huge this early in the season. So great run, great season for them so far. Then you have a new team on the scene, Charlotte Phoenix right there in second. Stewart Haas Racing in third there because of Steven Wilson's win. And then I'm going to mention it every week until they are dethroned. 2311 Racing, still there. Sitting there in fifth until the champs are dethroned. I'm not going to stop mentioning them because they are showing us they're doing it again. And then, wrapping out the top 10 with Clint Boyer Racing, Joe Gibbs, William Byron back up there in the top 10. And Femi's back must be hurting him because he is carrying Clint Boyer Racing. No offense to the whole team over there, but look, once that evens out, Clint Boyer Racing is going to go up the charts once again. But Femi doing a great job here early on in the season.
You're going to wish the 2311 into existence there to have good runs each week.
Sure, I feel you have to say it every week for it to happen, Alan.
Until you dethrone them, I'm going to mention them.
Well, we do have to mention, like you said, Jim Beaver Esports. They are leading the pack. And Alan, you got a chance to catch up, right? We're going to take that moment to catch up right now.
Yeah, that's the best part. Look, you go to the top of the charts, you get on the show, Countdown to Green. So let's talk with both drivers because we got them both here, Blake Reynolds and Michael Guest. We'll start with you, Blake. First of all, how did you end up over at Jim Beaver Esports?
I ended up over at Jim Beaver Esports just because I was looking for a change, and I had heard from the previous drivers that it was a great environment. So, not that there was anything wrong with my previous teams, but I was definitely looking for a change, something less corporate, I guess, if that's the right word to use. So I was definitely looking forward to just having a good group of guys that do a bunch of extra fun stuff like the off-road truck, off-road championships, the E-Short course that General Tire put on, and when at Jim Beaver Esports, all those guys are really good at off-road dirt stuff, so it's been fun doing that with them so far.
We've done enough talking about how your team is and where they are in the standings, so let's hear it in your words. How do you judge your start to the season, how it's going so far?
It's my best start to the season by far. Even my best year, 2019, I was like 20th in points at this point, so I guess good stuff looking forward if I can maintain it, but I'm just riding the big mo, so 9th, 10th in points, it's going fine.
Yeah, the Big Mo has sent you guys all the way up to the top of the standings there for the team standings. What are your thoughts on leading the team championship so early in the season?
It's pretty cool, considering we were on Team Dillon in 2020 and it just wasn't the best year. The fact that the same combo, just in different circumstances, can lead the team standings, that's pretty cool to me, especially 2 years later. So I know me and Mikey have been working our tails off in these races to try and gain spots. We're both just not very good at qualifying, so it's actually pretty impressive to be in the points where we are, considering our qualifying results.
All right, well, it's gone well so far. Now the biggest curveball of the season, likely. We're going to the dirt, Bristol Dirt. What kind of prep have you done to get ready for dirt racing?
So last night we ran A Open. I'd say it went pretty solid, but we're all pavement racers, so dirt is definitely new for all of us, and especially for me. I'm glad I'm on Jim Beaver Esports. Those guys are really good at dirt, and running in the E-Short course recently with all those guys, it's good prep. I've learned a lot about what you need to do on dirt and different types of vehicles, so you probably wouldn't believe it, those big off-road trucks, but they do translate in ways, and I have found some characteristics to take from those to transfer to my Cup Series car.
That A Open, really impressive, important for a lot of people getting practice last night. Blake, thank you so much. Look, for every one driver, there is a second that makes up the team in all of our league. So let's talk to the other driver over at Jim Beaver Esports, Michael Guest. Michael, thank you for joining us. You stayed with the team. Tell us why you stayed and returned to Jim Beaver Esports.
Yeah, we had a great year last year. Just wanted to keep racking at it. Like I said, we had a lot of consistency last year. We almost made the playoffs. There's a real good team dynamic going there, and I enjoy those guys, so I'm happy to be back.
It's certainly working out seeing you guys at the top of the standings. What's it like having Blake as a teammate again to work with?
Yeah, Blake's great to work with. Like you said, I've worked with him before. I'm on the same setup team as him, so we have a lot in common already. We've always been friendly with each other, so it's always great to work with Blake on the racetrack too, and not only off the track, but we do work together on the track as well. Even when we weren't on the same iRacing team, we've always given each other breaks and stuff. So he's great to work with.
We all know the individual goals in racing, but what does it mean for you guys to be leading the team standings right now?
I mean, that's huge. With Jim Beaver Esports, we've put a lot of work the last year in just having ourselves up front, changing what we were doing before, and making sure we're in the picture. Because before, I feel like all of us needed to have that next big step in the series, and I feel like since I've joined Jim Beaver, we've gotten that, and the only next step is making the playoffs and getting some good points out of it.
You mentioned all the work you guys are doing, but we're not handing out any trophies yet. So really, what is it going to take for you guys to make a playoff run, qualify for the playoffs this year?
The biggest thing for me is not falling too far behind on the road courses, and really hopefully getting a win before then, because I feel like I could have made it last year, the playoffs specifically, but there were too many winners and I didn't win. So consistency is great, but really got to get a win.
I love that, because winning's so important. It could happen tonight. It could happen on dirt. You have a little experience in rallycross. Can any of that happen? Can you apply any of that to tonight at Bristol?
Specifically the heat races, yeah. With the heat races back then, I used to work with Logan Clampett, Nathan Lyon, and a few other guys that are in the Coke series now, and from previous years in the rallycross series. And there's always a big battle in the last few transfer spots to get in, and that's where the entertainment happens. So if there's anything I've learned from the rallycross stuff, is to stay away from the transfer spot. Hopefully I'm up front.
Michael, thank you so much for your time. We talked to Blake, we talked to Michael. It is only right that we talk to the namesake of the team, the namesake of Jim Beaver Esports. Jim Beaver joins us now. Jim, how did your team get into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series?
Well, Jim Beaver Esports got into the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola series. It was kind of one of those things where, a lot of people go, "Oh, what's this off-road guy doing an eNASCAR?" No, I've had a long-standing relationship with iRacing for quite a few years. We were working on a few projects together, doing some podcasting stuff. Obviously, I've got a big podcast and radio show network on SiriusXM, and kind of one thing led into another. There was quite a few openings in. It was, right before the big explosion, I guess, for eNASCAR and iRacing, pre-pandemic, and so we kind of got our foothold in there. Came in mid-season, and didn't have real good results the first year. Second year had a little bit better results, and then and slowly we've picked up steam, and here we are sitting here, leading the owners' points, and it's been a long time coming.
We can see it in the driver standings. Experience matters so much. What does it mean to you to have such veteran drivers together on a team this year?
Well, this year I'm really excited with our driver roster. Obviously, we were able to retain Michael Guest. Last year he had a phenomenal year. He was probably down the stretch one of the most consistent drivers all year long. I think at one point he was sitting second in the points. It just seemed like he had top 20 after top 20 after top 10 after top 20. Really consistent. Obviously, come playoff time, things weren't exactly ideal. But was really excited to be able to retain him in the Big Green Egg car. I thought his consistency was definitely makes the basis of a really solid team. You need that guy that's going to bat 300 every single season. And I figured, I felt like Michael Guest is that guy. He's always going to be there at the finish. And Blake Reynolds, Kane Cook last year was kind of our wild card. He was our guy that you bring in as the home run hitter. You know, you don't know if he's going to be consistent every single week, but you know, at the end of the day, he's going to hit a few home runs for you. You know, and I felt like Blake Reynolds. You know, he had a lot of history with eNASCAR. Has had a lot of success at iRacing, and I figured, you know, he would be. I don't want to say wild card because I think that plays down how good of a driver he is, but I felt like, you know, if we were going to take a flyer on a guy, Blake Reynolds would be the guy that we want to do it with, and he's come in and he's done gangbusters for us this year. He's been really, really consistent, been at the top of his game, and I think, you know, the duo of those guys, you know, I think down the stretch here and looking at playoff season, I know it's still very, very early, but I think we got a really, really good shot to potentially put 2 drivers into the playoffs.
Jim, I love the honesty. So look, the numbers don't lie. The scoreboard says your team leading the standings right now. What does that mean to you?
You know, as a team owner, this is something we work for. You know, obviously you want to see your guys up at the front, you know, and I feel like it's easy. I don't want to say it's easy to get one guy up at the front, but to lead the team owner standings, it means you've got 2 guys that are running up front consistently. And I think that's even harder to do than possibly leading, you know, the points with a single driver. But, you know, for us to be up there, I mean, you know, we're a small team. You know, I look at the teams, Roush Fenway, you know, JGR and, you know, these big, you know, NASCAR teams in the real world and some of these big esports teams. And, you know, obviously in esports world, we're pretty well known, but you know, in the sim racing community. But to me, it's really humbling to see, you know, what we've got in our staff of people, which consists of about 4 of us in total, you know, and we're there competing at the top of the game in the eNASCAR world. I mean, it means a lot. And I think hopefully a lot of sim racers out there and teams that are smaller, it gives them a little hope that, you know, someday that, you know, if they keep pushing, they keep grinding, you know what I mean? They can reach that, you know, the elite levels of sim racing like we have.
Jim, thank you for your time. Great story, just great backstory there. And the field is on notice. They are looking at the standings just like we all are. Let's keep it going with the guests here on Countdown to Green, and we'll bring in Tyler Hudson, who is, you got a bunch of titles, Tyler. Competition director, race director, Grand Poobah, everything going on. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Alan, how's it going? Yeah, I wear a lot of hats here at iRacing, but no complaints. I love everything I do, so very blessed.
That's awesome. And because you have a lot of experience, we'll get into all that, but let's talk about tonight first. Describe your job, and for people who don't know the kind of behind the scenes aspect of what's going on down on the track, what are your responsibilities tonight?
Yeah, so basically as, you know, series director, that basically just means I have a lot of oversight of the series in terms of like rules, race review, incident system, penalties, overall general management of the series. There are a lot of people that help in regards to that, like Otto Zabini and Travis Sollenberger, Nim Cross, Samuel Roush, some of those guys. But like tonight, we'll probably have our work cut out for us. We're kind of reviewing every incident that happens on track. We're trying to assign fault, help with penalties that may happen during the race. I mean, there's a long list of things, and I think tonight is going to be pretty chaotic. So I'm sure we'll be pretty busy at the end of it.
It's such a benefit to have you up there watching over everything, because you were a driver in the series. Not only a driver, a former champion. I first got to ask, do you miss it at all? Do you miss that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, all the time. I'm a competitor at heart, and I think, I guess I'll always be that way. I don't know, but I think it helps me be more efficient at my job. It brings a new perspective or a unique perspective to this position as a competitor or as a former competitor in this series. And yeah, I still like to get on the service and race as much as I can. Obviously not as competitive as these guys, but the desire to compete will always be there, I think, which I'm okay with.
All right, quickly, do you jump on still? You can tell us. Do you jump on?
Oh, yeah. I race probably, used to it'd be like, I mean, yeah, weekly I'm on there racing for sure. Like
Yes.
all the time.
And that's because you're so busy not only doing the iRacing, real world racing as well. We're taking a look at it now. That is your dirt late model out there on the track. How cool is that? So tell us about that experience, being a driver on that side of things, and maybe, I don't know, any advice you can offer about some dirt racing tonight, because there's some rookies out there.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to race that car. It's a 602, which is a crate late model sportsman late model that I race at Jackson Motor Speedway here in Central Mississippi. We've run 4 races this year and run second every time. So I think we got second pretty good. So I wish we could just get one spot more, but we'll keep trying at it. I'm very lucky. iRacing jumped on board, as you can see on the picture. But so tonight, I think the first 50 laps of this race are going to be super important. The track's going to change a lot in those first 50 laps. And I think you're going to see guys who can follow the groove as the track changes throughout those first 50 to 60 laps. The guy that can make the moves first before everybody jumps up there or moves around and follows them is going to be the guy that makes moves and goes forward. And the other thing is these guys are used to asphalt. So to be good here, you have to be out of your comfort zone, hung out a little bit, kind of out of control, but in control, and be comfortable in that position. And the guys that can do that tonight will do really well. We have a couple of these guys in this race that are Dirt Pro Series drivers on the sim as well. So I'd look for those guys to really be a step above the rest maybe. But everybody in this field's good, and they all adapt really well. So it could be anybody's race, really.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you who, but I'm getting a bunch of texts right now from some of the drivers. They want a track reset. Any chance we're going to get that before we go green?
I think we're probably going to see a few track resets throughout the night for sure.
That'll make a few people happy. Well, what do you think of the diversity of the tracks? Because, so far we've seen the short track, we've seen intermediate, we go to road courses this year, and obviously heading to a dirt track. It's such different challenges for everybody. I wonder what you think about that as a former competitor and now kind of overseeing everything.
Yeah, basically as a spectator, for sure, I love the diversity. I love the different tracks, the new car, everything about all that is very super intriguing. As a competitor, I don't know if I necessarily like all that stuff. I was never that well at the road course stuff. So, but this car is different. It drives different. It's good on the road courses. Anytime you can have diversity in this series with the talent level that is here and see other people kind of shine and step up to the plate is a good thing and good for the overall series for sure. And you see that in NASCAR now. They're doing everything: short tracks, dirt track, everything, road courses. So we have the same thing going on. So it's really cool.
Tyler Hudson, appreciate your perspective and your experience. Thanks for joining us here on Countdown to Green.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the show. I hope it's a good one.
It's going to be great. Camille, how you doing?
How are you doing? Why don't we give you a breather, because you were just running through all of that, because it is my favorite time. It is Twitter Rigs time, brought to you by Logitech. Let's take a look. Oh, this one is really nice here. We got some RGBs going. Justin, I see you.
Wow, this is Malello, just Malello. He works pit road for these races a lot. This is really cool.
We also, this is nice inspiration on the wall here. Joey, I love to see it.
Is that like a surfboard in the background? That's awesome.
That's
awesome. Glow in the dark.
Ayrton Senna. Love that, Joey. Thank you.
Oh,
wow. This is very different. We have not seen this on Countdown to Green. Lots of wheels here.
See some Logitech up there. This guy has some variety of he can choose any wheel he wants to at any given time, apparently.
A wheel for every day.
That's beautiful.
Here we have, this seems like it may be in a basement. Very messy. But you know what? I like it. It's pulling some nostalgia.
That's okay. We have a Dale Earnhardt fan here.
Jared, we love you. Don't worry.
Okay, very simple. And you know what? There was some effort for cable management here. You see those cables tucked just above the knob for the drawer. I love it.
A for effort there.
Listen, great effort there. That was awesome.
I love seeing all of those rigs. Remember to send us your rigs so we could comment on them and just show them off to everybody else. I'm super jealous of all your rigs. But before we get into Bristol's race today, Brandon, you have to break down for us. Give us an analysis of the track.
Let's hop right into it. All right, welcome to the beautiful Bristol Motor Speedway in beautiful Bristol, Tennessee. Some could say Bristol, Virginia, depending on what side of the racetrack you're getting wrecked on tonight. This racetrack is, I guess, an elevation of 1,493 feet. That's pretty high up there. We're in the mountains of Tennessee here. But let's look at an in-car lap around the racetrack. One thing to watch out tonight, guys, is the cushion. If you jump that cushion, you're either going to do one of two things. You're going to hit the wall and ride the wall for a very long time, or you're going to bounce off of it and bounce into one of your competitors and make them very upset. Don't want to do this. Remember, this is first time on dirt for a lot of these guys in the series. So they're going to be riding anywhere they possibly can to get grip. And that leads us into our next thing. The track is going to be ever changing throughout the night. You're going to see the groove change over and over again. You're going to see guys run super low, super high, and that's where we're going to see chaos. And it's going to be calamity, and I'm all for it. It is Bristol dirt, baby.
Yeah,
I love
Bristol definitely makes me nervous because I feel like there may be a few close calls. But speaking of not so close, let's talk about our picks because someone may be in the lead. Let's start off with Brandon. Who's your pick for tonight's race?
Well, you know what? I'm looking at a former dirt level driver, and that is Steven Wilson. He's already got a win this season in the bag. He's excellent on dirt. Steven Wilson's going to get the job done tonight.
Alan?
I feel good about my pick because it's the same as Brandon's, and he has way more points than I do, but I'm not going to catch him if we keep picking the same guy. But no, I like Steven Wilson. I like the win he already has this season, and he was doing great last night in the A Open. I think he got second there. So he's got the dirt experience. I'm going with him to get the second win of the season.
You're copying me, Alan.
I know. I'm not going to catch you.
And my pick will not be Steven, although that was a really great pick. He was doing awesome in a race last night. I'm going to go with Bobby Z. Just because Bobby Z was taking it pretty mellow, and I feel like I have a really good lead in our picks right now, so I'm playing it safe.
That's good.
Smart.
That's good. Yeah,
I do not
get
have
those points.
a lead at all. I have nothing. What does that do?
I know. I'm sorry, Alan. I'm sorry. Wait, we still have tonight's race, and you both picked Steven, so maybe this is the one that may put me down, but maybe not. We're gonna have to see, and we are gonna see very soon. Alan, Brandon, last thoughts and excitement for the race tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's dirt. It's dirt in the iRacing. So many people who are inexperienced. That is going to be entertaining, I'll say, for all of us. I can't wait to see it.
It's going to be wild. You better watch every minute of it.
And you're going to watch every minute of it, and we're going to be joining Blake and Evan right after this, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching Countdown to Green.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
Catch all that?
I'm ready to rip somebody's freaking head off.
Or that? Well, get ready for this, and a whole lot of this. I am Full Throttle. I am NASCAR.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
This is virtual racing with real life stakes.
My expectation of making the championship for
Ray Alfala, it's for sure a threat to the competition. My number one goal is to get back in victory lane.
I'm gonna just go out there and control what I can control.
10 feet ahead of you, catch me in something you'll never do. I turn around and I level, no motivation is needed. Look, I put myself on the pedals, but this is incredible. This how it feels at the top, got no incentive to stop. Murder the tune is around here. We're running a beat and it's right back to sleep, and I use it, take me, then it got me here.
The road to $300,000 makes a stop in the birthplace of country music. We're tonight from iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. We say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 5 of the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And happy that you're with us for a unique night of sim racing alongside myself, Evan Kosoko, joined as always by Blake McCandless. And Blake, tonight going to be a little bit different. These race cars are going to get dirty with dust and mud by the time we're done, and it's all going to start with heat racing coming up first.
Well, they're not just going to be covered with dust, Evan. They are going to be completely damaged, torn apart. Every fender on that car is going to be beat in. And again, there's really no precedent for this race. Obviously, we've never had a dirt race in this series before, so a lot to look forward to tonight, a lot of firsts. And again, I think for a lot of drivers, they're in desperation mode once we get to this middle portion of the season. If you're not doing well so far, that desperation is going to set in because it could be a pretty slippery slope if, again, Bristol is a tough challenge for you.
Yeah, there is the fun element of this is something we've never done. It's a challenge. There is that nervous element, the fact that it comes at a very critical time in the season where drivers are starting to figure out, hey, I'm in a good position so far early on, I need to defend, or hey, I haven't had a good start to the season, I need to pick things up. So really not the time they want this experiment, but listen, this season's been around for, or this series, I should say, has been around for so long. We don't get many opportunities like this for a first, and this one should be exciting. So to get tonight underway, let's go trackside to tonight's Grand Marshals for the most famous words in motorsports.
Good afternoon, race fans. My name is Kevin Stafford, Vice President of Marketing for Food City. We are so excited to join you for the Food City Dirt Race. And now for those most famous words.
Drivers, start your engines!
Well, the Food City marketing team is ready, and so are we. We go trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for heat race number 1. Graham Bolin and Mitchell DeYoung going to be side by side on the front row. They'll bring us to the green flag in this one with Nick Ottinger and Matt Busa behind on row 2. Stephen Wilson in the Super Haas Esports entry is going to be alongside your 2-time race winner this year, Michael Conti, for Junior Motorsports. Row 4 will see the Williams Esports entry Donovan Strauss alongside Michael Guest and his Jim Beaver Esports number 9 machine. And on row 5, Casey Kerwin repping the set. He's alongside Malik Ray, P10.
And again, the rest of this field, Blade Witt, Jimmy Mullis there in row number 6, Brian Mercurio and Taylor Hurst making up row number 7, Dylan Alt, Alan Bowes, and Ray Alfala rounding out the drivers who were able to put down a time in qualifying, Evan. The final 3, Vicente Salas, Bobby Zielinski, and Nick Shelton not pulling down a time. And again, this is heat number 1. We're not exactly going yet with the main feature tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting, of course, we're going to talk as we go through tonight's race about the format, how we're going to race ourselves into this, Blake, and tell us a little bit more about it with our Asus Race Analysis.
Certainly so, Evan. We look heat length. There'll be 25 laps. 20 drivers will obviously advance to our feature tonight. So this is purely to set the inside row is heat number 1. We'll get to heat number 2 for the outside row in just a moment. Of course, our feature later on tonight, 120 laps, so much longer. And again, not going to have to worry about fuel or tires here on the dirt. You can see the weather conditions relatively cool out in Bristol tonight, 70 degrees. Track temp even cooler than that, down to 57. Partly cloudy skies, mostly cloudy skies rather, and a little bit of wind that these drivers are going to have to deal with. But again, Evan, wind not going to be about it. It's all about finding the grip on this dirt.
And one thing you can tell as well as you look off at the back of the pace car, the sun is setting behind the mountains here in Thunder Valley. We are going to race into the evening and under the lights here tonight from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. So it's going to be an exciting night. Again, nobody going home. These pair of heat races will set the order for that 120 lap feature coming up just a little bit later on this evening here on eNASCAR.com. But it is going to be a quick sprint. It's going to be crowded. And of course, as this dirt changes and the racetrack gets worn in over the course of the night, drivers are going to have to learn and adapt to that as well. Right now, one of their first good learning opportunities to see how these NASCAR next-gen cars race on the dirt. The pace car is off and in. Bullet wastes no time. We're racing in Heat Race 1. And controlling down into 3, Bolin trailed by that number 23 at Young, single file. Ottinger third. They're going to fight for 4th. Conti up on the outside of Steven Wilson.
And Conti trying to be the first one to go already to the outside and try to make that work. We saw at Richmond he was able to run just about any line, and we'll see here if he's able to make that outside work. You're going to see a lot of these drivers, Evan, really favoring the bottom of the racetrack for the first opening laps, as we see 3 wide right there behind them between Jimmy Mullis and that 33 of Taylor Hurst, also testing the outside lane here early.
So far, so good. You can see 3 wide down the back straightaway. They're trying to use some space and squeeze to the outside is Alan Bose. Bose into the outside wall will fall back from that battle, and that'll leave Mullis and Alt able to drive away as they continue their fight for what is 13th and 14th on the racetrack right now. Again, no magic number. Everybody makes it in, but if you got to go to race car and you miss it in Q, now's your chances. Mercurio's going to spin off at turn 4, and he'll take Mullis with him, so trouble behind your race leaders.
And again, not going to be throwing the caution flag for that in these heat races, so we will continue to march on. You see Michael Conti, Matt Busa, as well as Donovan Strauss able to scoot away from that. But again, this is what those heats can do, Evan. There's not really a ton to gain in these heats. You can obviously improve your starting position, but the last thing you want to happen if you're Jimmy Mullis or Vicente or any one of those guys is to put yourself back in traffic. Really bad track position here because, again, this is Bristol. You can go a lap down in the matter of a heartbeat, so the last thing you want to do is end up in an incident here in these heat races.
Yeah, you just really don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball. Listen, it's tricky enough starting towards the rear normal here at Bristol, right? You're worried about getting lapped, but certainly when we put 40 cars out here all at once a little bit later, it's not a situation you want to be in. You're watching a battle from Michael Guest on back. You can see in front of Guest, Strauss and Abusa fighting for 6th and 7th, but the driver hanging it out there was Malik Ray's number 7, Sin Seats Mustang. He's in between Kerwin and Witt, and again, all these drivers fighting for around 9th or 10th position. That'll put them right middle of the road in the feature. Let's watch the replay here. You're looking for that 36 of Brian Mercurio. There was the touch in the 3 wide right there. Hurst got him into the fence. Then the 46 gets involved. Even the 19 of Salas also collected, Blake. That was that 3-car incident from earlier.
And that is something we are going to see a lot tonight, Evan. It's not necessarily going to be a case where it's all about these big, large crashes or anything, really hard contact. It's just going to be a little bump right there. What we saw with Brian Mercurio, just a little bit of a nudge to get you out of shape. And again, these cars are still a handful. We haven't lost that, even though we've transitioned over to the dirt. As a big slider in the back of the field throws Malik Ray into the outside wall. It was just towards the back end of your screen back there, just outside the top top 10, contact with Blade Witt between those two. But yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen, especially once we get about 40 cars out here. There's not going to be a whole lot of room to maneuver.
We talk about the constant evolution of this series and of the sim, and of course these next-gen cars have been a learning curve all season long. As we see Dylan Alt's perspective, riding in 11th at the moment, he's picked up 4 spots from the get-go in his Letarte Esports entry. But Blake, this is also a new scan of this Bristol dirt track here on iRacing, completely updated to the version that had been on the sim for the last year, a brand new scan, new physics and whatnot, updated to how that dirt's going to change over the course of the night. So I'm sure that sent the setup builders and the drivers for a loop in the last couple of weeks, is getting retuned in. And look at all of that counter steer that Dylan Alt has given us as he tries to pick up some more spots, everybody riding that outside line.
Well, and as everybody moves up to that outside line, you're going to see those ruts start to form. And the one thing I was noticing in practice, they reset the track state a little bit before practice ended. But the one thing that we noticed is getting off of 2 and off of 4, the ruts that were building up in the straightaways were much more prevalent than I think what we saw in the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series that we ran last year. So that's going to be something with these drivers, that these cars are really going to be bouncing around on the straightaways once we get more into Heat 2 and of course into our feature a little bit later on.
And you can see the blue groove down there, kind of middle to low line as we go on board with the Casey Kerwin. We'll be talking about track state a lot tonight, and to translate that, basically, that's just how worn in the racetrack is. You see those spots on the track that shines. That's where the rubber's actually been put down on top of the dirt, and it's rubbered up, it's blue grooved in, and obviously there's a lot less grip. So Kerwin to the bottom, he doesn't want to be in the middle right there, right? He tried to enter low, but you saw at the back end just would not stick when he got into the center, lost some time. So track state adjustments basically sending the virtual tractor up there to chew that up, reset the racing surface, and give these guys something to work with, because if they didn't do that, these drivers did a nearly an hour-long practice session earlier, there'd be nothing clean to work with. So that explains that. We'll be talking about that as the night goes on, as you saw a bit of a slide job there. DeYoung and Wilson in a good battle here for second and third, and Nick Ottinger wants to get back into the mix. He's right there in P4. You're on board with his Logitech entry for William Byron Esports.
Well, and the one thing I thought that we would see, Evan, as we get this on board of Nick Ottinger is look at the names that we see up front already. Of course, half the field's not in this race. It's in Heat 1. We're split up right now, but the names that we see up front, Grant Boland, Steven Wilson, a winner already this season. Nick Ottinger been so close so far this year. I was thinking with this being dirt, with this being so different, that we would see a lot of new names, guys like, Caden Honeycutt, who will be in Heat number 2, or even a Colin Bowden, who races in real life, does a little bit of kart racing on dirt, that we would see those drivers start to shine. But for the most part up here, it is up front, and it is the same drivers. As Wilson will make a move, a nice little slider right there on Mitchell DeYoung, and DeYoung going to lose 2 spots as Ottinger slides on by with just a few laps to go.
And Wilson's been able to shake and bake his way through all of this. You're looking off of his Smithfield Ford, the Stuart Haas Esports driver, already a race winner this year from a couple of weeks ago at the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, leading the championship into tonight's race 5 of the season. And he's about 1 spot shy. Graham Boland, by the way, you're not seeing him because he is absolutely checked out. He is way off in front of the battle for second odd back. Wilson still working the high side. Ottinger trying to find a little bit there in the middle and continuing the slide backwards here is Mitchell DeYoung, now under fire by Donovan Strauss with 2 to go.
Coming around to 2 laps to go now. Strauss falling back there. You could see DeYoung able to make that pass on through, but my goodness, what an absolute performance by Graham Boland at this juncture. I mean, he has just run away, and it hasn't even been close. He's almost lapping your 4-time series champion in Ray Alfala, but early on, Evan, I think no doubt about it, if you pick Graham Boland, you're feeling pretty good about tonight.
Boland has been off to a hot start, and with a little bit of lap traffic up the road, he'll take the first checkered flag of the night. Leads 25 of 25. And after being the best car in single car qualifying, Boland secures pole position for the feature race as he takes home the checkered flag in heat race number 1. We take a look at your Coca-Cola full race results for heat 1. Bolin, Wilson, Ottinger, DeYoung, and Conti inside of the top 5. A good representation of a lot of different teams in the 10 with Strauss, Kerwin, Guest, Alt, and Witt your first half.
Looking further back, Matt Boosa, Malik Ray, Alan Bose, Taylor Hurst, a couple of drivers who I thought we would see a little bit further towards the front, perhaps just learning it out, trying to feel it out. And the other thing you have to think about, Evan, is that a number of these drivers likely have a car that can drive a lot better once this track really wears in and you're really having to searching around to find what little grip is left here at Bristol. I think there's going to be plenty of drivers who are able to search around later in the run and find a little bit of that speed.
And already ready to rock and roll with heat race number 2 coming up next. This one will set the even-numbered starting positions for the feature. So 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and on. And we take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid. Corey Vincent, representing Team Dillon Esports, going to be on the front row alongside the 2nd of the William Byron Esports Chevrolets, Logan Clampett in 2nd. 3rd spot tonight on the inside of row 2, going to go to the Clipboy Racing entry of Femi Olat and Elliott Sadler's driver Garrett Maines will start from 4th. Back to row number 3, the 2nd Jim Beaver entry of Blake Reynolds will start alongside the Mode Motorsports 24 of Cody Bias. Of course, that team owned by Kyle Long. 2311 Racing, the Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan ventured team with Keegan Leahy will be on the inside of row 4 alongside Zach Novak in his Rise Esports fueled by Sudoku entry. At row 5, Junior Motorsports will see their 88 of Brian LaPrade line up alongside Colin Bowden's Z-Racer entry.
A couple of multiples of 21, and Garrett Lowe for the Wood Brothers going to start on the inside at road number 6. Derek Bordeaux, Parker Kligerman, and Landon Castle's E-Racer outfit going to start in P12. Stuart Haas Esports' Dylan Duval will start in 13th, as well as the other Elliott Sadler Esports entry in Liam Brotherton in the number 2. He'll start 14th. Parker Retzlaff, very impressive this past week in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, finished 12th alongside Caden Honeycutt for Roush Fenway Keselowski, who made his NASCAR Camping World Truck Series debut. Colin Keister out of the Charlotte Phoenix, and by the way, shout out to the Charlotte Phoenix, who is having a live event and spectating this race, so out there with Brad Perez DJing the whole thing, so hope you're having a fun time if you're out there. Derek Justice alongside him in 18th. Kyle Peddles starting in 19th for Space Station Gaming, and Xset Gaming's Ryan Lusa going to have to come for the back in this one, starting P20.
Yeah, they're going to be looking forward, the Charlotte Phoenix group, to the rest of this race. I saw that Ryan Vargas was out there and everybody else. I think every week, Blake, they've got a watch party going on Tuesday night. So we'll say hi to everybody there and hope they're enjoying the action. Let's bring in the 3rd member of tonight's broadcast team with James Spike.
I am with the winner of that first heat for the Charlotte Phoenix, Graham Bolin. And Graham, that heat looked pretty good from our perspective. Did it feel as good behind the wheel?
It felt great. I was a little tight, but the track will loosen up, and I will feel good at the end of the feature. And I feel like I have a really good car. Thanks to Tyler Ducharme and Houston Hammer and everyone at Dead Zone for helping out build the setup. But I just want to say hi to the people at Charlotte Phoenix watching along, and the esports hub. So it's good to have all that support behind you. Charlotte Phoenix has been good to me this whole time. I can't pick a better team right now.
You pick up anything in that heat that you think is going to transfer to the race at all?
The track is a little bit tight, like the conditions, but it will probably change with it resetting or them working in for the feature. So not really. We practice enough to where nothing really new comes to us, but I'm sure curveball will come in the middle of the race, how the track is running or what line to run. So I'm excited for the future, and hopefully we can come out with a dub.
Graham Bolin wins heat 1. He's going to have the best view of anybody coming to the green flag in the main.
And now he's got an opportunity to sit back and watch as the 20 remaining drivers get set to learn where they will start for tonight's feature as we get ready to go in heat race number 2. Blake, and mentioning the track state that we alluded to earlier, the track state is not going to be reset for this one. So these drivers racing on a little bit more of a worn-in track than what the group in heat race 1 saw.
Well, and I think that's going to change up a little bit of the start of the race, Evan, because if you're on the bottom last time out, that bottom really works if the track state is completely clean and you really have no rubber put into the racetrack yet. It's not slicked off at all. But at least now that we've gotten some laps on, we had 20 cars run 25 laps. I really think that you kind of give the advantage to this top side is probably where you'd rather be for this start of this heat.
We'll see how good Corey Vincent can be for the inside of the front row. Pace cars off it in. The 3's on the loud pedal. We're racing in heat race number 2. Good jump for that Coca-Cola Chevrolet up front, but a challenge to the inside. Here comes Femi Olat from 3rd. He'll try to take away 2nd as Clampett goes to the outside. Give it to the 79.
And a big spin in the back is Zach Novak up into the wall. You see Dylan Duvall and Ryan Aluza who have piled in as well. So early trouble for a number of drivers here. It's about 6 or 7 that have crossed the stripe well behind the lead pack. And I'm sure we'll get a couple of looks of that in a moment. But again, early trouble here. It has really spread out this field, except for where they're all thrown under a blanket up here in the top 5.
And Femi keeps getting into the wall with the 79 car up there. He made up the positions real quick, but I mean, he is beating the right side of that race car off in the opening few laps here, while everybody else actually wanting to be a little bit lower at the start of this one. So because he got in the fence, Garrett Maines took a spot away. His number 31 ChevyLiners.com entry was able to go from 4th to 2nd on the start of this race. And the loser in all of that was Logan Clampett, who started 2nd, and it fell back into 4th position. If we take a look at the replay, watch in the circle there, center of your screen, off the corner on the start of this race. That's where it all got together. Bowden into the 51 machine underneath, and that is how it all started to pile up, and Bowden got the worst of that one, it seems. He's all the way down in 16th position as you watch your top 2. Vincent leading Maines, working lap 6.
And again, that's just a case of drivers being impatient. They know how important that these starts are to these races. They're going to try to get every position possible. And, you know, Evan, especially this year more than in previous years, we've really started to see that attrition really come into play every single race. It seems that we're having a number of cautions and drivers really having to pace themselves. I think we're going to see a lot of the same tonight once we move forward to the feature. And we know that restarts continue to breed more caution. So I think it's going to be a wild one once we start throwing the yellows and get these guys restacked up when they have these incidents.
And you can see the onboard there with Garrett Maines to get all of that counter steer as they try to basically fight these race cars through the corner again with the updated track, with this new next-gen car. The way that you drive this current combo, very different, Blake, as you mentioned earlier, to what we saw last year with the Pro Invitational Series with Cup cars here on the dirt track at Bristol. So it has been a learning curve. It is a different way to attack. And speaking of attacking, Olot keeps dropping it back, and it was Brian LaPrade in the green in that 88 Ledford Billiard Supply Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports. He picked up a spot. He is now +4 to 5th. And after that hot start, your Daytona winner has been struggling. You can see Femi really fighting that race car all the way to the outside every single time around. Again, no concern of falling out of a transfer spot, but each position you lose now means 2 spots further on down the running order when we go racing for the feature.
Well, you can see on this that onboard, Evan, that as that rubber, I mean, you could see it building up. You could see the moisture in the racetrack, and you could see Garrett right here trying to get that left front right down to the bottom where it's not so slick, not so slippery down there. He's going to try to get everything he can, almost running onto the flat, which would typically be the apron on the concrete version of Bristol. And you're really seeing drivers avoid that middle area of the racetrack, but they're either doing one or the other. They're trying to clip that left front on the bottom to get that car rotated a little bit, or like Femi Olot, you see them running right on the top, getting that right rear in it to try and get that drive off of the track. But from what I'm seeing so far, Evan, every lane in this racetrack is working awfully well right now. I wouldn't say one right now. Maybe the top is a little favored, but drivers have been making some moves on the bottom as well, and Femi Olot, one of those who was just on the top for a couple of laps, looks to try to arc it back down.
And you can see, look at all of that wheel there. Really fighting the race car is Keegan Leahy. You're on board with his VRS Toyota for 2311 Racing. Underneath him is Garrett Lowe. Up the road is the duo we were just talking about, Femi Olat in the 79 and Brian LaPrade in the 88 machine. Keegan looking to bounce back after a 29th placed finish last time out at Richmond. He does, though, have 2 top 10s this year, so he wants to bounce back, I should say, into shape. Of course, hope you're enjoying the action tonight. If you want the latest news and updates from the world of eNASCAR, then you can sign up today by scanning the QR code at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen now to stay up to date with all things eNASCAR and iRacing, official simulation partners. And of course, we're talking about this season. For more information on the schedule, the standings, and how to become a driver in this series one day, you can go to iRacing.com/eNASCAR. That is your digital home for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. This 25-lap heat race, though, Blake, quickly starting to wind down. Chaos on lap 1, but it has settled into a nice little pace here. And unlike in that first heat, where we saw Graham Boland absolutely check out, Vincent unable to do so, and it is a 3-way fight for the race lead now. Maine's in the fence at 1 and 2, though, and here comes Clampett to the inside in the 97.
And I tell you what, Maines has been wheeling the heck out of that race car, got right up to Corey Vincent, and has been running right in lockstep with Vincent those last couple of laps, just looking for a way around. And again, this is what is nice about a heat format. You can ride behind your competition, learn a little bit. You see it on board right there from Blake Reynolds, who has also started to catch a little bit of this lead pack as they've started to battle one another. But this is what you can see, and Garrett Main's going to try to make a move for the lead. He'll complete the slide job, and here comes Corey Vincent, crossover back down to the bottom.
Vincent's led all 19 laps as he slot up in front of the 31 of Maines. Yes, he does. Maines crosses back over. New race leader, Garrett Maines, at lap number 21, putting that right rear in the fence to straighten that car off. And Garrett Maines, impressive stuff as he goes to the lead. Now what can Logan DeClampett do? Work in the bottom, trying to get up alongside Vincent. He's on his door, but that top side's going to always be better on the exit, Blake. He's got to go that Maines route, slide all the way up in front of the 3 if he wants to get the job done here.
I know he could have done it there, and actually he is going to do it. Vincent scraped the wall with the right rear just a little bit, and that was enough for Clampett to go on by. Clampett starting to run the middle of the track. I see about 5 or 6 guys who are really starting to find that middle. Top's gotten worn out, bottom's gotten worn out. They're finding a little bit of grip, and I tell you what, Logan Clampett needs it about as well as anybody. For somebody who was in the Championship 4 last year, it has just not been a season to write home about so far. You can see Reynolds, big slider on Corey Vincent behind him. This is great stuff, and we got a battle shaping up for the win and for third in these final 2 laps.
Winner gets the outside of the front row in tonight's feature, but Clampett's going to start to run out of time here at Bristol, working lap number 24 of 25, and coming to the white flag this time through. Maine still defending on the outside. 1 lap to go in Thunder Valley. A little bit of a touch there as Blake Reynolds enters the picture. He's in third behind. 1 final chance. Clampett on the door. Spins out. Gives it too much. He'll try to pick up on exit, but Garrett Maines hangs on and wins Heat Race 2.
And what a great drive there from Maines. You can see he's pretty pumped about it, knowing he's put himself in a great position. Going to be starting in second once we get to our feature tonight.
It is impressive stuff. And you take a look at your Coca-Cola race results for heat race number 2. Maines gets the win, will get second for the main event. Clampett, P2, will end up in 4th. Corey Vincent, Blake Reynolds, and Brian LaPrade, your top 5, along with Femi Olat, Keegan Leahy, Garrett Lowe, Cody Bias, and Liam Brotherton, your top 10.
Looking further down in the order, again, many of those drivers caught up in that early accident. You see Colin Keister, 11th there for Charlotte Phoenix. Derek Bordeaux, Caden Honeycutt, Colin Bowden, Parker Retzlaff, Kyle Peddle, and then 4 drivers who pretty much were down and out after that initial race, so they'll have to be trying to work their way up from the back of the field.
A couple of them, 4 there, don't even make it past the opening 5 laps of this race. With that, the grid is set for tonight's feature race, which is coming up next. We'll step aside for a moment. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series duel at Bristol, the feature on the dirt, coming up next.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
They say that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. But maybe it begins with one single start. Turn, bump, grind, pit, pass, win,
It's the winner. That's crazy what happens on the last lap here.
and celebration. In NASCAR, that journey starts here. I am the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. I am NASCAR.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
And back live from iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway coverage of tonight's race, brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Asus, the official PC and monitor of eNASCAR. And by Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes the racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Well, we are ready to go feature racing, Blake. 2 heat races have come and gone, and we are about set to drop the green flag on the first dirt race in history in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. A lot of good stuff in the heats that should tell us we're in for a treat tonight.
I think so. I think some of those battles that we saw late in that race, Evan, Corey Vincent, Garrett Maines, throwing slide jobs back and forth, I think this really bodes well for the type of racetrack these drivers are going to provide for us. It looked like the bottom, the top, even Logan Clampett was making the middle work, so I think I'm looking forward to that, to see how these drivers, once they get 40 cars on track and they're really, really tearing up this racetrack, how it's going to shake out and how these drivers are able to handle that challenge.
And of course, we look at the track map here for Bristol Motor Speedway. This is still the Bristol that we all know and love, Blake. The just over a half a mile configuration with 22 to 24 degrees of banking, but we're on the clay tonight, not the pavement.
And that is the case, Evan. And a good thing of note is that banking has changed a little bit. They have changed Bristol Motor Speedway in real life. They've reflected that here in the sim to take a little bit of the top, I believe, away from this racetrack. So they've changed the banking a little bit to try to make it a little bit more competitive. And I know those first couple of heats were a little bit of an indication. I think that was a welcome change here on a Bristol Motor Speedway that, again, is covered in dirt tonight.
Yeah, normally clock it in, I think, 26 to 30 degrees of banking, so a little bit less and a little bit of a wider racing surface. Of course, we mentioned that those heat races have come and gone, and that is how we set the grid for tonight's feature races. We take a look back at some of those notable moments. Blake, the big thing that stands out to me is that we had a lot of really good, clean racing in those heats, but there was a little bit of chaos early in both of them, right? Then when it got single file, drivers started to go to the outside, a couple worked the bottom. You mentioned Clampett was able to even to make moves in the middle. When we double the car count from 20 to 40, though, I wonder about those first few laps. How difficult will it be for drivers to get settled in with that much crowding on the racetrack?
Well, not to mention that we're going to be slowed by yellow flags if they are going to get out of shape. So then we'll re-rack them too wide and go again. So I think that's my biggest worry is that, cautions tend to breed more cautions. And can these drivers in an entirely new element really handle themselves well once we start to get too wide? And like you said, we're going to see even more wear on this racetrack. Those ruts, you can see those bumps right there from Garrett Maines. Those ruts are going to get really, really noticeable here. Those cars bouncing on the straightaway are going to get worse as we continue to move forward. And again, it's another challenge that these drivers are provided.
And we are rolling off pit road, so let's go trackside and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid. And bringing us to it is your heat race winners. Graham Bolin, representing the Charlotte Phoenix, will bring us to the green flag tonight, alongside Elliott Sadler Esports' Garrett Maines in second. Round number 2, we'll see the Stuart Haas Esports entry as Stephen Wilson to be alongside Logan Clampett's William Byron Esports, number 97. Back in row 3, Nick Ottinger, the second of the William Byron entries, will start from P5 alongside Team Dillon Esports' Corey Vincent. The 3-car will roll from P6. Mitchell DeYoung going to be the highest of the 2311 Toyotas. He starts on the inside of row 4 alongside Blake Reynolds in his Jim Beaver Esports 15. And on row 5, it is Old Junior Motorsports. Michael Conti starting 9th and Brian LaPrade starting 10th.
Donovan Strauss with Williams Esports will start in 11th. Femi Olot to his outside, your Daytona winner in 12th. Casey Kerwin roll off from the 13th spot after finishing 7th in his heat with XZ, as well as Keegan Leahy for 2311 starting in 14th. Michael Guest will roll off from 15th for Jim Beaver Esports, and Garrett Lowe finishes 8th in his heat. He'll start in the 16th position on the outside road. Dylan Alt in 17th. For Latart Esports, Cody Bias for Mode Motorsports in 18th, 19th the Blade Witt, and 20th is Liam Brotherton for Elliott Sadler Esports.
Halfway home, Matt Booster is going to start set in the number 21 spot for Mode Motorsports, and Colin Keister, the other Charlotte Phoenix entry, will be there in 22nd. Malik Ray starts 23rd tonight. He is alongside Derek Bordeaux and the E-Racer 42 machine in 24th. 25th goes to the Space Station entry of Alan Bose, and Caden Honeycutt brings his RFK Racing Ford off of the grid in 26th. Taylor Hurst and Team Dillon Esports start 27th. Colin About in the second E-Racer entry will start from 28th, and then back at row 15, it is the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota of Bobby Zelensky and the RFK Racing Ford of Parker Renzelak.
And further on back, drivers who were involved in those incidents: Vicente Salas in 31st, Kyle Peddle starting in 32nd for Space Station Gaming. The other side of the Joe Gibbs Racing entry with Ray Alfala there in 33rd, Zach Novak in 34th. iRacing Motorsports row here in row 18 with Nick Shelton and Derek Justice. Jimmy Mullis, early trouble for him in the Rise Esports machine. He'll have to start from 37th. Ryan Luza as well ran into issues in 38th. And Brian Mercurio, Latart Esports 39th. And Dylan Duvall spun early, did not complete a lap in that heat. Will start in 40th. We'll throw it down to the pit road with James Pike before we get going.
I am with Elliott Sadler Esports' own Garrett Maines out of Powhatan, Virginia. And Garrett, that first heat, Graham was able to sort of scoot away with it, but you had a much, much different heat number 2 and a much different path to victory. What was it like racing at the front in those first 25 laps of your night?
Yeah, I really didn't have confidence coming in that we were going to be as competitive as we were, but it's definitely a good step. We got some confidence coming into the feature here. Graham has been scooting away every race that we've ran with them to prep for this. So, we'll see what we got here in the future. I think we made some positive gains in this session, and hopefully that'll pay off.
Looking for continuous gains that will hopefully at the end of the night put him in victory lane. Garrett Maines starting P2 this evening.
Well, now the complexion and the challenge will change very much from what we saw in the heat races. Blake, we take one more look at a race race analysis, and those 25-lap heat races are gone. Now we focus on the feature.
And that's exactly right, Evan. A very short race, the shortest one of the season, only 63.9 miles at 120 laps. We will have caution flags that are being thrown here. So, of course, if anybody runs into issues, we'll be sure to throw that yellow flag. And, of course, 4 tire sets available. Not going to be much of a worry here on the dirt, and you can see the temperature not changing much since we started the night. The sun continuing to set, but still sitting at 70 degrees, a 57-degree track temperature. As you can see, the track has been reworked. It's a clean racetrack, so they say, Evan, and a little bit of wind that these drivers, I'm sure they're not really going to feel it that much.
Yeah, that's a big storyline. They did reset the track state. They did clean it up for these guys, so it's not going to look this pretty at the end. And to be honest, I don't really think the race cars are going to look this pretty when we get to the end either. So take a good look now. Front row and pole position belongs to Graham Boland. It is the 4th pole of his eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series career, and we're going to get set to go racing on the dirt for the first time ever in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. The pace car going to dive down and out of the way, and it is Graham Boland's field to control as he comes off of 4, and we say, let's go dirt racing at Bristol. Boland secures it first time through turn number 2, and off to 3 and 4. Your top 3 or 4 single filed out, but the midfield is where the chaos is going to be early. Boland up front, though. He leads lap number 1.
And they are 2, they are 3, they're even 4 wide further on back in the pack. And you're exactly right. Where this midfield is, right around here, you could see Mitchell DeYoung there is our focus. But there is a long line of carts both around him and behind him that are 2, 3 wide back there. Still trying to sort these things out. And it's going to take a while as we have a spin on the front straightaway, but they get it sorted out. Keegan Leahy did a full 360, and you could see the stack-up effect. They were 3 and 4 wide back there.
And this is going to have an accordion effect. It's only going to make it worse, right? It's like when one person cuts somebody off on the freeway, that checkup is there for hours. Same thing. They saved it, but it's going to be really hard to get out of this 3 and 4 wide box that they're in right now. You see that 18 is Zelensky up to the outside. You got Bowden in the middle there. The 19 car of Vicente Salas. Oh, and a spinner. It is Salas who gets turned into the wall, and there is caution flag number 1. Salas went around and he took the 54 machine of Kyle Peddle with him.
And just a little bit of contact, and that's what we're going to see throughout this night, Evan, that even though we have these big stack-ups, guys hitting the wall, it's not necessarily always going to be those little bits of contact that bring out a yellow flag. It's going to be these little nudges, these little bumps that do just enough to upset the race car to where you can't get it pointed in the right direction. And Kyle Peddle, boy, did he go for a ride, and it has just not been a great season so far for that 54 space station entry. You can see right there, the focus is on the 19, Evan. And you're going to see just a little bit of contact in the left rear, just enough to upset that 19. You see the 54, Dylan Duval gets tagged, and then Derek Justice nowhere to go. He piles right in and will lose the nose of that race car.
And unfortunately, we did not get away with that one. Pretty minor damage, all things considered. But, yeah, that car did snap up into the outside wall. There was nothing Kyle Peddle could have done. And, again, the laps are so short here at Bristol that if anybody does go all the way around, your race leader is going to be on the scene pretty quickly. Yeah, they are running a little bit slower than your typical Bristol lap time would be. Drivers in the 18-second range when they are at full song early in a run, and caution flag had to come out for those drivers up against the outside. I mean, you talk about how this is the shortest race of the year on the mileage calculator, right? Only racing, just under 64 miles of action here around Bristol, but the yellows will count against their lap total. That's going to be a pretty big factor as the night goes on, James.
Definitely going to be a big factor here with Vicente Salas of Williams Esports. And Vicente, what did you feel from your perspective? What happened from where you were sitting?
I mean, I think they kind of just started to, close up to each other, stack, and we were kind of just on the receiving end there. But I mean, we'll try and climb up through the field here. It's kind of just been a bad night so far. So.
Having a feeling of how much damage you may or may not have? Are you worried about it going forward in the race?
No, I think all the cars here will probably be wrecked by the end, so we're all good.
A little bit of work to do for Vicente Salas as we'll get back going here shortly.
He's going to try to pick up the pieces and get this one back underway. He will go all the way down to 39th position in that. Looking for some repairs. Not the only driver with issues, though. Derek Justice on the pit lane under this caution flag. He has some pretty severe damage from an earlier and unrelated incident. Looks like Ryan Luza was down on pit road. Haven't really talked much about the 4 car tonight, so he'll also be down towards the rear of the field. But as you see, the lights are out on top of the pace car. We'll put lap number 9 behind us and take a green flag with 111 still to go on the scoring pylon. Boland wants the bottom. You can see he's trying to push, literally push Garrett Maines up so he can kind of point and shoot off of the corner. He gets a good restart. We are back underway.
Almost like two linemen trying to face off with each other there on that restart. As Logan clamped it into the wall, and boy, that is going to create a huge mess off of turn 2. The big one here at Bristol. Garrett Lowe, the E-Racer Machines, Donovan Strauss, Bobby Zielinski, and that all started, Evan, with Logan Clampett, who was on the outside row. He was about the 3rd or 4th car there, leading the outside. He barely scraped the wall, got into Corey Vincent, and everybody can't see, can't stop. It's dirt, and boy, a big accident here off of turn 2.
Yeah, it started on the outside, but it took out the people on the low line, and that's where you'll see the spins from as we take a look at the replay in this one. You mentioned Clampett on the outside. There was no contact to kick this off. He just overdrove it a little bit into the corner, went off and into the loose stuff up top, got into the fence. You can see him in the circle there, and when he gets the wall, watch, it's going to slow the Donnie 7 down, then the 3 hits him, then the 23 hits him, and they're all going to go down right there. They get LaPrade, they get Conti. Both of those Junior Motorsports Chevrolets get turned back up in front of the field, and at that point, all bets are off.
And honestly, could have been a lot worse than I think it should have been. You see a couple of drivers got a few bumps and scrapes, but like you mentioned, the duo, the Junior Motorsports entries, got a significant amount of damage in that. And at least from what I'm looking at here, Evan, as far as required repairs for these drivers, there's a long list of them that have that coveted meatball flag right now. Michael Conti, Blade Witt, Caden Honeycutt, Garrett Lowe, Dylan Alt, and Keegan Leahy. And that we are in a situation here, James, where we are getting a lot of cars already having to sit and repair some damage in this one.
Yeah, with Junior Motorsports, Michael Conti and Michael, have you ever seen anything like that in a Coke Series race break out that early, especially off corner exit here at Bristol?
I mean, I could have guessed that was going to happen after whatever A Open was last night. So just don't really know what happened. Don't really know who caused it, but I just don't really get it, man. It's really not. It's not that difficult. You know, you just slide around and give people some room, have some respect early on, and you can avoid a lot of that. So it's a long race, and it's unfortunate we're killed here because we had a really, really good car when the track got worn out, and now we're not going to be able to see that. So it's unfortunate. You know, WR1 with all of their dirt background, really wanted to have a good run for them in Junior Motorsports. But tonight's not the night, so we'll sit here, get the damage fixed, watch some of this go down here, and go on to the next one. That's all we can do.
Nights like these make that win at Las Vegas that he had very particularly valuable.
Yeah, and it makes Richmond feel...
Yeah, Richmond even more so, right? The race win at Vegas to get him on the docket, but of course last week as well, doubled up, the only 2-time race winner. Those race wins and all those points that he accrued during them, helpful in situations like this. Pace car back off and in though, Boland on the inside again will bring us to the green flag, and it's a great jump for the 48 car. Here comes Steven Wilson trying to get underneath Garrett Maines, just too strong on the outside as they are 3 wide middle of the road.
3 wide further on here, back in the pack, and Michael Guest going to go for a little bit of a spin. 1 car to the outside wall. It's Colin Bowden. Bobby Zielinski is spun out here, and already another yellow flag. And this is what we were worrying about, Evan, what we were talking about during those heats. So once we start throwing these yellows, when you re-rack these guys, stack them back up 2 wide, the whole track is just clogged, and it's really difficult to sort things out. And we add some more drivers to that list. I think Michael Guest being one of them, who has a little bit of required repairs to get on pit road before he can get back out onto the racetrack. And at least from what I'm looking at in my replay, I know we'll get it up here in just a moment. I believe it was the 9 and the 18, a little bit of contact there that sparked that one.
Well, let's take a look at the replay, find out, looking for the 9 of Michael Guest. There he is in the ring, and as he comes off onto the straightaway, now into the corner, 42's up the road, and he just held it low, and it was a much more aggressive entry by Zelensky there who got him. And then again, when you got a car that slows down like that, you can't simply hit the brakes, Blake, or turn around somebody on a dirt track, right? Once you're sliding through the corner, there's really only so many things you can do to avoid an obstacle in front of you, and it's tough for Michael Guest. He's a top 10 guy in the championship coming into tonight and has had 3 consecutive top 10 finishes, an 8th place finish in Vegas, a 3rd at Atlanta, and then a 5th 2 weeks ago in Richmond, seeming unlikely tonight after having a pretty good start after being involved in that incident.
Certainly so, Evan, and this is what we've seen building up throughout this year, James, is this theme of attrition continuing to come in, and unfortunately it bites Michael Guest tonight.
Has indeed bit the Jim Bieber esports driver who joins us now. And Michael, were you afraid of any sort of contact like that here with the situation, or have you been worried about it on any of these restarts just because everybody's been so bunched up?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've never really been all together before, all 40 of us on the track, so I knew there was going to be chaos. I was doing my best to try to avoid it, but I mean, there's a couple track blockers there. I've been involved in every incident, so can't really say much. But I mean, we had speed in the Big Green Egg Mustang, just couldn't really do anything with it tonight.
I think a lot of these drivers are just waiting for a moment to get some green flags laps and just to see what they really have, guys.
Yeah, that's the question, right? It is the waiting game. They were able to go green through those heats, not in this feature, and I think that's what a lot of drivers waiting for, to see what they can do long term. Here's a slow look again at that contact initiated by the 18 machine, and it almost got away with it, but right there again, you just get stuck. The 6 of Retzlaff, the 46 machine, I think that's Mullis in there as well, and again, at that point, there's only so many things that the rest of the drivers can do. It's definitely going to be a stack up, and again, limited options on what you can do to get away from that once it kicks off in front of you. We'll do it again, though, and plenty of restart practice for Graham Boland. 20 laps in to this 120-lap feature race. A couple of drivers have been on the move, Blake, just outside of the top 5, and I want to give him a shout out. Liam Brotherton's plus 11, Derek Bordeaux plus 13, Malik Ray also plus 11. So a couple of big movers around 10th spot who have been able to avoid the chaos and take advantage of these first couple of restarts.
Certainly so, Evan, and I think that replay did an amazing job of showing, especially there with Zelensky, that, you know, Guest is barely reacting to something that's happening in front of him, checking up. But if you're Zelensky, once you commit to that corner, this isn't a late model. This isn't a UNP modified or a big block or anything where you have a lot better reaction, a really light car. These cars are heavy, and it's hard to react, especially here at a track where you can't see a whole lot that's happening in front of you. As Graham Boland, like you said, a lot of restart practice, he is putting it to good use. Green flag in the air, and he'll have 3 car lengths ahead of Garrett Maines, but boy, they are stacking up once again in the back of the pack.
Oh, and a slide job there. I thought it was a good jump by Boland, but Maines put the pressure on, and the 48 parked the bus in front of him. That 31 machine, Maines wants to fight for the race lead, as behind them, Corey Vincent able to hold off Reynolds for the moment in a battle for 5th. Yellow flag behind. And it is the 42 machine this time around of Derek Bordeaux. That race car pretty torn up, Blake, but it was torn up already a little bit from some previous contact, but this one the worst hit he's seen.
Worst hit he's seen. It won't be required, so required damage for the 42, so nothing that may slow him down. I think as long as you can keep it rolling, you're not really going to be much of a disadvantage. We're not thinking about aero mattering too much here at a racetrack like this, but this was more of an effect right here. You're going to see Liam Brotherton having to avoid Casey Kerwin. You see the 42 right there highlighted on your screen. The 2 is going to come into the picture with the 95, and to avoid hitting the 95 slides just a little bit down the racetrack and right into that 42 machine of Derek Bordeaux. And again, that hit just enough to get Bordeaux out of shape. He'll scrape up the rear end of his car, spin it out, but at least he'll be able to tag in at the end of the line. No damage, no required repairs for Derek Bordeaux.
It looked like Derek didn't know they were going to be 3 wide there, right? Casey Kerwin had gotten into the fence in the corner, and Liam Brotherton, I think, tried to get underneath him, but that put the 2 much lower than Derek Bordeaux was expecting him to be, and that's how those 2 cars came together. And yeah, that 42 snapped around so quick. There was nothing that Derek Bordeaux could have done to catch the race car. He backed it into the fence and has a good bit of damage. Of course, if you want to start your sim racing career today, and if you want to race in a NASCAR Cup Series car on the dirt here at Bristol, you can do it tonight. For more information on how to start your iRacing career, you can log on to iRacing.com today. As always, 40% off all new iRacing memberships. There is never a better time to start your sim racing career, because with iRacing, every day is race day. Just looking, we talked about tires available, Blake, but to this point, pit stops have been basically exclusive to drivers getting repairs, nothing on the strategy front.
Absolutely, Evan, and that's going to be the key throughout the night, that nobody up front is going to pit for tires. They're only going to come down pit road if they have to repair damage, because the damage isn't going to slow them down. So, yeah, pit road tonight going to be a bit of a necessity more than an option to maybe go down there and get some speed. Obviously, tires not going to come into play at all tonight, and like you said, it's you don't want to give up this track position, because we've seen the same top 7 remain there throughout the night, but it's back there in the pack that you would never want to risk putting yourself back there with what we've seen so far.
And as we get set to go green, Corey Vincent will start from 5th. That's on the inside of row number 3. He just walked away with a best finish on the season of 4th 2 weeks ago at Richmond. Wants to carry that momentum through. Let's ride on board with the Team Dillon Esports Chevrolet and the Coca-Cola onboard camera coming to the green flag. He's fighting hard on the inside, but up top, Blake Reynolds bringing it to him. The General Tire Ford Mustang going to win out in this exchange and give Reynolds the top 5 spot for the first time tonight.
And Vincent doing it right there is now even Reynolds able to go by. And interesting to see that the track has already slicked off so much, despite the fact that we've run so many of these opening laps underneath the yellow flag. We've still seen that bottom start to lose and kind of fade a little bit, and you could see most of the field starting to venture up towards that top side. But one driver who has made that middle work and caught right up to your race leader that last time, they were nearly side by side. Garrett Main starting to look awfully sporty and chasing down Graham Bolin and challenging for that race lead.
Yeah, it's funny enough because Graham Bolin, I think his restarts have been getting better and better as we've gone into this race, but I think Garrett Main's getting better and better on the green flag runs. He is all over your race leader. I think the most competitive that those guys have been all night long. You see the likes of Taylor Hurst and others doing action here right around 20th. This is dead midfield on track with Matt Busa underneath him in the 75 machine, and up the road there's the onboard perspective from Alan Bose, who's about 8 positions in the green from where he started. What the roof cam doesn't tell you, he doesn't have a rear bumper anymore. I don't think he's got a front bumper either. So Bose has been through the ringer in the space station to race at entry, but he's doing a good job of sticking at it in 17th position, and there's a live look at him at the bottom right corner of your screen.
And despite the fact you see so much wheel movement out of Alan Bose, when he gets to the corner, you can see he wants to throw it in, but once he's turning to the right, you see that wheel stays relatively steady. You think about these guys would really have to be sawing at it, but the drivers who are fast and are able to get it done, are able to make it look a lot easier. Typically, as a spinner in the back is going to bring out another caution flag, and unfortunately, if you're a Williams Esports fan, Vicente Salas, and it looks like Garrett Lowe once again in that one, and I think it may have even caught up the other Williams Esports entry, Donovan Strauss, as well.
Yeah, at first, I saw both of those Chill Blast Toyotas involved and thought it might have been a little bit of Williams on Williams entry, but I think you're right. The 20 and the 21 is where this all originates, and we'll do our best to get a second look at it here in just a moment. It was battling back in 36 spots, so nobody here really trying to get into an incident, but watch that 21 car as he goes into the corner. There's a bit of a shove there, pushes him wide. He gets all the way up to the wall, and the 20 just tags him. The 19 gets involved, and they both slide down to the inside. No huge checkup, but I think those cars just kind of got stacked up on each other. They really couldn't, lift going into the corner when they wanted, and Garrett Lowe just got tagged from behind. Nothing really that 21 Ford, I think, could have done to avoid that.
No, he was having to stack up for Ray Alfalo right in front of him, trying to avoid getting run over. And unfortunately, Strauss just kind of carrying that speed through the center of the corner got a little bit better of a run off, and unfortunately just got spun around here. We'll get one more look at this. This will be from Keegan Lehue, who's running out here several laps down, 13 as a matter of fact. And you could see once again how quickly things happen, and a nice little job of keeping that 2311 Toyota out of harm's way, but not the same, though, for Garrett Lowe, who's with James Pike.
Garrett, just how tough is it from a driver's perspective to race here at Bristol with all this traffic, given that so many people don't have that much experience racing with 40 other cars on dirt? Can you quantify that for the people watching at home?
Yeah, it's fun to drive, like to just go run laps. It's definitely fun. I'm not a huge dirt fan, but it's definitely fun. It's just we all have no experience with this. Some of us have rallycross experience, and there's a couple dirt pros in here, but I mean the rest of us don't really know what we're doing, and unfortunately it's just causing a lot of wrecks, and we can't really stay off each other because the tracks kind of goes through phases where you have to be in a certain lane, or else you just lose track position. So this was making it difficult for everybody, but hopefully we get it sorted out here. We're probably 15 laps down, so I don't think we're in contention.
It's tricky for everybody, guys, not just Garrett. I think we're seeing that tonight.
And he's obviously, again, in a position where you're going to try to pick up the pieces and bounce on it back. And this one is we get set for yet again another restart, this time with 81 laps to go from Bristol. Bolin on the inside, going to get the jump, but right there, lockstep with him. And now with the lead into turn number 1 is Garrett Maines. Maines sees daylight, and for the first time, new race leader in the feature, Garrett Maines on top of the board.
And I tell you what, he timed that restart absolutely perfect to be able to get that job done. You can see further back in the pack here around Casey Kerwin. Oh, and Grant Bolin turns Garrett Maines around in front of the pack. Garrett Maines goes for a spill. However, he's on the inside. It will not bring out a caution. So just after getting the lead, he loses it. Parker Retzlaff is now around on the back straightaway. And oh boy, a big slide job thrown there from Graham Bolin results in the 31 getting spun in front of the field.
Yeah, that'll be an incident that will certainly be talked about tonight and into the week. Controversy in the battle for the race lead. Garrett Maines had gotten to the outside of Graham Bolin on the restart, was able to clear him off at 2, and it was very clear that Bolin was committed to the slide job. Watched the 31 and the 48 Blake, but the problem was he wasn't all the way clear, and he puts himself in the wall, right? He clears him right there, hits the fence, and when he hits the fence, he slows down enough that it's going to shoot Maines off to the bottom. No yellow there, but then as he was getting back going, there's the contact. The 17 and the 6 get together, and that is what sends Retzlaff around. So what an unfortunate situation for Garrett Maines, who impressed in his heat race en route to the race win in that, drove his way to the race lead here in the feature, and is now on pit road with damage at lap 42.
Well, I'll tell you, at least from Grant Boland's perspective, you may say he's not clear. I'm sure the spotter of the 48, who is Dustin Lingard, probably says, probably told him, clear enough. I feel like that's one of those instances. He was just in front of him, hit the outside wall, and I think we see how important having that race lead is, being able to control that restart, because Boland, who had done such a good job of it all night, finally got a little taste of his own medicine with how Maines launched off of that last restart.
Let's see the perspective of Graham in this one. Of course, fighting hard for the race lead. Here's the race leader up the road. He goes to the bottom, going to go for the slide, and again, he clears them, but it's when he gets into the fence is the issue. He hits the wall right when Garrett was getting to him, and that sudden stop is what puts Garrett into his left rear and shoots him on down the hill. Of course, not Boland's intention, but certainly being 40-some-odd laps in, Blake, an awfully bold move for that point in the race.
And certainly so, and we have a long ways to go. We're only on lap 45, so I just have a feeling, Evan, that at some point later on tonight, if this beef carries over, I think that we may see these two of Garrett Maines around each other yet again. Maines, one of the more accomplished drivers in the history of the service, a pro rallycross driver at one time, basically a pro dirt driver as well. I mean, Maines has all the accolades, and I wouldn't be shocked. We talked about a lot of drivers not very experienced on dirt. Garrett Maines is not one of those drivers, and he has plenty of time here, not even halfway through this one, to try to work his way back up to the front.
It's not impossible. Several drivers have made big moves. I mentioned Malik Ray earlier. He is now in the top 5. Started this race back in 23rd, so that's plus 18. There's even drivers further back in the midfield who have made more moves. Zach Novak is plus 20 to 14th position, and Dylan Duvall is your biggest mover. He has gained 23 spots after starting dead last at 40th to race his way up to 17th. So the lights are out on top of the pace car, and race control has changed the restart procedure to single file. So it is going to be a little bit more advantageous for Boland, I think, to try to get a bit of a jump, not be side by side with the challenger off into turn number 1. The challenger will now be Nick Ottinger. He assumes the number 2 position. Let's ride on board with his William Byron Esports Chevrolet with the Logitech onboard camera. If you weren't really sure what you were looking for, Blake, when we talk about the blue groove in this racetrack rubbering in, I don't think anything illustrates it better than those onboard cameras, and you can see the lights reflecting off of all of that rubbered in dirt there, center of the road, which is what is forcing these cars high and low when they can.
You're certainly right, Evan, and again, that gets brighter as we continue to go on into the night. You see Garrett Maines, who is a little bit hurt by that decision to go to a single file restart. It means that he obviously has a lot more ground. They're more spread out to try and drive up through the field. He's gained already 5 spots since that restart, so he's done a fair job of working his way up. And then how about this? Malik Ray, not somebody who I would say is known for his dirt racing. It's super speedway racing that Malik Ray has really made his bread butter, and right now he is up here in the top 5, looking great up here in that number 7 machine. Looks like Blake Reynolds trying to poke to the outside, but done a great job. Started in the 23rd position. By far the biggest mover that we've seen so far tonight is that number 7 of Malik Ray.
He keeps putting it to it and has raced his way up to the top spots, right? Some of the other guys midfield with those big positions gained have been just staying out of trouble. Malik Ray's been making green flag passes to get up and into these spots, and it's not without the battle scars as you look off of the back of Steven Wilson's Smithfield Ford. Wilson runs in fourth right now. You can see Malik Ray's got a handful of cars behind him. Reynolds is there. Clampett. You got Kerwin, Andy Young. 5 cars at least under a blanket, and Clampett on the bottom. You mentioned earlier, Blake, he was using the middle in some of those heats and is not conforming to go to the outside. He's doing whatever he can to make that 97 Logitech Chevy work where possible, and with a bit of damage as well, something that he's dealing with as we look up front.
Looking up front, and Nick Ottinger has been right in tow with Graham Bolin as a parking lot in turn 2. Looks like Dylan Alt, kind of where this all originated is Duval, who was running in the 21st position, I think got tagged. I believe it was another black and yellow machine. It may have been on the space station machine, and even hearing that, Kyle Pettil said over the driver's chat, that was on me. So I think a little bit of contact with the 54.
Tough break there. Going to put us under the caution flag as we close in on halfway at Bristol. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. It's been all Graham Bolin so far in Thunder Valley.
We've learned to savor the moments that were always there. And they never tasted this good.
Catch all that?
I'm ready to rip somebody's freaking head off.
Or that? Well, get ready for this, and a whole lot of this. I am Full Throttle. I am NASCAR.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Green flag back in the air at Bristol. Coverage of tonight's race brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. By Asus, the official PC and monitor of eNASCAR. And by Logitech G, the official wheel and pedal set of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. We're back underway, and we are cross flags in Thunder Valley, halfway home in the eNASCAR dirt race at Bristol. And another good jump, Blake, for Graham Bolin out in front of the field, watching the fight behind him. That's the 3 of Vincent and the 10 of Wilson for third. Give it to the 10 car.
And give it to Wilson for now, but Corey Vincent not exactly going away. Vincent trying to go all the way up to the top side of the racetrack to try and make that move work. And, one thing I would love to see still Steven Wilson, where that driver's running. I know if I was somebody in this series, Evan, you got to look at where those former pros, and he was a former iRacing World of Outlaws driver here on the service. He knows exactly what he's doing. Slowed down once again for a caution flag. It is the 19 of Vicente Salas. A rough night becomes even tougher for the driver of that 19, who was pretty much a victim of a 4-wide move, and he was just the loner out who just couldn't really gather it up.
It's tough, sometimes when your night is going poor, it just the hits keep coming, right? He had a rough break earlier, and again, he had nothing to Blake to do with that incident. It was just a couple of cars up top check up. He's minding his own on the bottom, but they end up 4 wide. What are you going to do? You're not going to fit them 4 wide, even though the racetrack's wider with this dirt config. And to watch the 18, that's where it starts.
Bobby Zielinski gets on the inside of Jimmy Mullis, Maines, and Salas just, again, not able to anticipate that, and Salas not able to kind of counter steer in time. He was trying to pull it off the wall, and when it finally did become unglued, just looped it right around. But again, a very, very tough night so far for that Williams Esports Toyota, who is still running on the lead lap, by the way. That is the one thing that he has going for him. We still have a list of about 9 drivers who have had to have some form of required damage and sit about 7 or 13 laps down. And if anything, Brian Mercurio has been the beneficiary of all of this, Evan. He started 13 laps down with his fellow drivers who were caught up in that early incident, and every single time he gets another lap back. So he's already back down to 7 behind the race leaders. I'm sure he's hoping this continues so that he can try to get back into this race.
It's tough, and you talk about the guys that lap down. It's not like they're 1 lap down, 2 laps down, right? I mean, there's several, and it's that required damage that hurts them. They are forced to stay on pit road for X amount of time to get the race car back on track, and because pace laps are so short, even under the yellow here, they lose some laps, James.
Yeah, it's been really tricky for everybody, but I really want to see this get going green just because we saw it in the heat races, and I think we're approaching a point in this race where we're starting to get in uncharted territory. We saw a lot of different grooves develop, especially in that second heat, Blake. You remember how drivers were running the top, the middle, the bottom. We've seen it in this race a little bit, but this track's already gotten to a point where we've run more green flag laps here than we did in any of the heat races. So any of the evolutions that we see with this surface, which are very unique to dirt, unlike anything we're going to see in the rest of the season, going to be way, way different from here on out.
It certainly is, James. I know just watching this racetrack, it's been interesting to note just how much has changed with the fact that we've had so many laps under yellow, and yet we still continue to see this track continue to wear out. Want to give a shout out once again. I know we talked about it a little bit in our heat races, but if you're watching at the Charlotte Esports Hub, the Charlotte Phoenix being well represented tonight by Graham Boland, who has led a vast majority of this race, and even Colin Keister, who started back in the 22nd position, has worked his way up in 11th. I'm sure they're cheering loud there in Charlotte as their man Graham Boland leads them back to the green flag once again. Single file restarts as he's able to pull out about a car length on Nick Ottinger, who James has not exactly let that 48 out of his sights.
I think be interesting to see what Nick Ottinger does here. I think he's got long run pace. We'll just have to see whether or not it comes in. But after about 5 to 10 laps, I've seen him close on the rear bumper of Graham Boland, but he hasn't had the opportunity or the time, I think, to make the pass more than anything else.
We'll see if he'll get that. You look there at your third place runner in Steven Wilson, who also has done a marvelous job in that Smithfield outfit for Storthaus Esports, slowly reeling these guys in, not letting them get too far away. But the one thing that Wilson has continued to do, James, is he is running right smack dab in the middle of the racetrack, a complete contrast to where we've seen a majority of the field starting to make their way towards the top, and even further on back of the field, you could see that they're starting to move towards the bottom a little bit. You could see it right on board there with Femi Olot, drivers running every single lane of this Bristol Motor Speedway covered in dirt.
That's a great shot because you can see everybody fanning out just in front of Femi. You've got drivers high, you've got drivers low, you've got drivers to the inside, and they're also sort of apexing in different places within the corner. Some people entering really early and then sliding up, some people waiting to get down to the apex. So really, really intriguing variables in play that you're really only going to see on a dirt track.
And you're only going to see it here as we have a change for the race lead. Out front, Nick Gottinger on lap 72 gave Grant Bolin a little taste of his own medicine, and a little bit of contact was used to get it done off of turn number 4. And now Nick Gottinger at the point here at Bristol.
Nick Ottinger with pace, Nick Ottinger with speed, but don't stop looking behind Graham Bolin because Steven Wilson's been there, and I wonder whether or not, give it another 5-10 laps, we'll see if he can do something. But look at this battle. Corey Vincent and company just going absolutely crazy here, right around the edge of the top 5.
My goodness, just a couple of inches. You could see how close these drivers are willing to get to one another. Not a whole lot of room given between any of these guys. Again, this is the battle for Clampett, for the battle for 6th. As you can see right there, the look on Clampett's face, not a whole lot of blinking going on and a lot of manpower being put into that wheel as he continues to get further away from that battle behind him. But James, the one thing about Graham Bolin we've seen through time and time again in this season, he has been aggressive to get back to the front. Can he chase back down Nick Gottinger, who has stretched out a healthy gap over the 48 so far?
What kind of long-run pace does he have? That's something that we're going to have to watch here over the course of these next few laps. And then what kind of stamina does he have? Dirt races, you can't really rest. We saw it a little bit there. I thought that shot with Logan was really good because you can see he was always busy, always doing something. That's how these things work. Even when you're on the straightaway, you're still having to wrestle the car. It's very, very difficult, especially over the course of 120 laps, to keep that up as a sustained pace. So I'll be curious to see whether or not, he tries to just push, or maybe waits for a moment and then decides to make a charge later.
We'll see what happens as, again, we're in the midst of our longest green flag run of the night. One of the only times tonight that we have gone over the 10-lap mark before a caution flag has been displayed. And, boy, that field is stacking up. Malik Ray and Femi Olot, a lot of contact there on the back straightaway as Malik Ray, who was running comfortably up into the top 5, started to slide back just a little bit. You can see Zach Novak trying to take advantage of that battle as well. He'll slot forward to 11th position. Some good racing going on here in the outskirts of the top 10, James.
How about Zach Novak? Remember, he got ranked on the opening lap of his heat. He's made a charge all the way back up to the edge of the top 10. Meanwhile, look at Graham Bolin's teammate for Charlotte Phoenix. That's Colin Keister looking to the inside of Corey Vincent. Here's a good look on board the driver out of Frostburg, Maryland. And again, cars just bouncing everywhere all over the place, especially on corner exit. I've noticed that the exits of 2 and 4 seems like we're seeing a little bit more bobbles from these cars than anywhere else on the racetrack.
It's definitely been interesting to see how those ruts develop as you see working very hard there. The other Charlotte Phoenix entry of Colin Keister, who has worked his way up into the top 10, been doing it slowly and methodically. And, honestly, James, looking on board, probably has one of the cleanest race cars that we've seen out here. We got cars missing front clips. We got cars missing the rear bumpers on their machines. You can see Mitchell DeYoung right there on that onboard shot, not possessing his rear bumper. But Colin Keister looking at that Charlotte Phoenix Toyota. It's about one of the cleanest cars that we've seen out here.
Also one of the few drivers in the top 10 that's really putting that bottom lane to use. Seems like everybody's started to migrate a little bit up towards the top. Now that we've spread out, we've distanced ourselves from that restart. Everybody's a little bit more independent, but the way they're coming off the corners here, it's almost like we're developing route sections like you see with motocross bikes on corner exit. You almost have to treat them the same sort of way, and that's only going to get worse as this race progresses and this track gets more worn out.
And speaking of worn out, we've seen kind of the migration away from the bottom as, why don't you take in the sounds of Bristol Motor Speedway in the midst of our longest green flag run of the night as we go iRacing full throttle.
48 machine to Graham Bolin there. He's in position, trying to catch up to the 25 machine to Nick Ottinger there. They had a little bit of issues with those lapped cars on the inside line. It allowed the 48 machine to close up, but as soon as they got clear of him, the advantage swings back in the direction of Nick Ottinger. The key for him, as we close it on 30 to go, is going to be navigating that traffic without issue, and there's only going to be more of it coming.
You're exactly right, Evan. If you think about dirt racing in general, that's probably one of the most important aspects if you're a real-life dirt racer, is being able to navigate lap traffic and not lose any time. We saw drivers kind of start to move away from the top side of the racetrack. A lot of the lappers electing to go to what I think right now is the fastest lane in the bottom, so it'll be interesting to see that as that top continues to wear away, those lap cars rather want to run on the bottom. What Bolin and Ottinger do to adjust their lines, and can Bolin work the top side better? I know he's been awfully strong all night, but right now pretty dead even and not really able to do anything with the lap car. You can see Dylan Alt there on the bottom, not really able to make up a ton of ground on him, who's well off the pace. He's got a little bit of damage, but he's holding strong there on the bottom.
And it seems like if that lapped car is on the bottom, that's preferred for Ottinger. It seems like he's pretty comfortable being on the outside. That's going to be the best case scenario for him. It's when they end up in his lane where that concern comes in. You go on board with Matt Busa, the 75 Ford for Motor Motorsports, fighting against Corey Vincent. This is for 9th and 10th position, but about 8+ seconds off of the race lead. That's how much faster Ottinger, Bolin, and company are than him. For everybody else, Busa, the slide job through the inside, ends up in front of Vincent, and he'll take that spot away.
And a masterful job right there, and that looks to be the way that you have to make passes here, is just throwing these very aggressive slide jobs on your competitors. Busa able to do it to a T right there to move up tonight. Then, Evan, I think you were talking about it, that spread that we see in this field. 2.5 seconds back to third of Steven Wilson, who, by the way, is a pro dirt driver here on the service. That goes to show you the type of pace that both Nick Ottinger and Graham Bolin are putting on display right now.
And I think that goes to prove as well that he knows what he's doing, and that's how he's able to take this methodical approach to this race. You're on board now with Taylor Hurst, somebody we've been talking about all night long, been able to make some moves, but I mean, where do you go, Blake, when this is the view in front of you? Ray, Ola, Novak, Vincent, I mean, they are using basically every lane possible right now. There's limited options for the driver at Winston-Salem, North Carolina to go. He's almost got to wait for an opening.
And my goodness, it is incredible to look at how much these cars are bouncing, especially off of turn 2. The ruts on the back straightaway are much, much worse right now than they are on the front stretch. You can see it visually just how much these cars bounce, and that's affecting these drivers getting into turn 3. You almost can't change lanes on the back stretch because of how much you're just trying to hang on to the race car, right? So pretty much where you exit turn 2 is where you have to enter turn 3, and it's amazing to see how much worse it is off of turn 2. You can see it right there than it is on the front straightaway and off of turn 4.
And you can see the lack of a front bumper on that 97 Logan to clamp it, not hindering him too much, but a big slider there, a little bit of a tank slapper almost off of the corner as the back end of that race car would not settle down, and he's going to allow that 23 Mitchell DeYoung to go on through. So DeYoung now races his way up to 6th, clamping it back down to 7th as we go on aboard here with Colin Bowden. He's raced his way up to 15th spot, and Blake, this is the trend that we've seen on these onboards as the race has gone on. Yeah, there's a lot of sawing on the wheel, but the car never really turns all the way back to the right? Once they go into the corner, they commit. You see, had to counter steer a little bit there, but as this track is rubbered in, we're seeing less and less of that, and in theory, the less of that you got, the better the race car is driving.
Certainly so, Evan. And while we're at it, I know we're on a dirt track. I mean, does Colin Bowden not look like Joe Dirt right there? I mean, he is wheeling that thing. He runs dirt in real life, but I just got to say that comparison, I think, is a pretty
That's
good
a
one
dirt
right
racer if I have ever seen one. And he's doing it and living the part right now, running inside of the top 15. And again, wanting a little bit more. Malik Ray in front of him up the road has got pretty much a scratch on every single inch of that Ford Mustang. And on this long green flag run, again, really allowing drivers an opportunity to experiment with the lines. Again, this whole track is rubbered in. It's slicked off with all of that blue groove. You don't have a ton of places to go, but gives you a chance under all these green flag laps to experiment with it. We talk about the sign and how most drivers have been able to settle in. Maybe not the case for Mitchell DeYoung. This is a guy who races just about every single discipline on the service. He is nearly going all the way upside down 180 degrees on that steering wheel. Watch that yellow tape marker, Blake, because that measures straight on center. And I'm seeing that thing go almost all the way around a full rotation the way he's got that wheel set up.
And usually Mitchell DeYoung, he'll run with one of those open wheel style rims. But my gosh, I mean, he's about elbowing the camera right there. I just can't believe that he's turning that much and kind of putting himself in an awkward position. But hey, he's running sixth and working on one of the best in the business right now in Casey Kerwin. But man, is he turning that race car a whole lot. But again, interesting to see that for this dirt race, he's not using that open wheel rim. He's going right to the stock car rim right there, as it looks like he may make the pass and have a fifth on Casey Kerwin.
And it makes sense, because if you do have that formula style wheel, right, it's not a circle. You can't flip it 90 degrees to the right, still have a hand on top. So I think he learned through practice, listen, I do it for a lot of the ovals, but here on the dirt I've got to go with a stock car wheel. And clearly with that steering ratio as well, he's going to be giving it more wheel than what's actually happening on the tires and in the car. He feels most comfortable having that much play in the wheel per se, and nearly got a tag there. I think the 95 of Kerwin just got into his right rear quarter panel, but to no avail, and Mitchell DeYoung has broken free. He now has sole possession of P5, and the big thing for him is getting away from this mess. This cluster of cars from Casey Kerwin 9th on back just cannot separate themselves. Keister, Vincent, Olat, Novak. You got Hurst in the mix as well, and it is a 5-car battle right now from 9th position on back.
You can just see how rough this racetrack is, how slippery it is this late in the run. And again, watch out for turn 2. Is Vincent going to try to clear Femi Olat? Not able to do so, but look how violently the car's jumping around there off of turn number 2. Vincent able to hang on. This is some of the best racing that we've seen in a long time in this series, particularly this season, a long green flag run, but these drivers are absolutely just wheeling the heck out of these cars. Great battles going on, especially here around this 9th position as Nick Ottinger continues to set sail.
Nick Ottinger is really starting to open this thing up since he's gotten to the race lead. It has been hard to get to that 25. And again, I mentioned the key likely navigating the lapped cars. He's been doing a lot better. You can see at the top of the board, Ottinger still above Wilson. The interval now some 2.5 seconds or so, and now less than 10 laps to go here at Bristol as they're getting a little bit physical further behind. Novak and company are getting into each other, and we talk about all of this on. Look at the driver cams right hand side of your screen, Blake. Just look at everybody sawing all over the place.
There's not much inactivity. You can see everybody. I mean, that's fantastic to see.
Is Ray driving one-handed? I think Ray's only going with the left.
Yeah, I think he is. He's driving like Dale Jr. here on the sim. He's just going one-handed. That's second row on the left side of your screen if you're looking for the guy that's driving one-handed, but it's not working too well for him. I think he's back here in about 26th, but nevertheless, you can just look at the amount of work these drivers are doing. Great shot here by our production crew.
I wonder if he was driving with the right hand, Blake, for so long and his hand fell asleep, his whole arm, because of how much steering he's doing, and he's taking turns, because they are putting in a lot of wheel work. I know we mentioned earlier that this race is going to be short on the mileage calculator, but man, I think is it going to be one of the hardest working races of the year, as Colin Bowden got squeezed 3 wide there with Taylor Hurst and Zach Novak. He got a piece of the fence, but I don't think any of these race cars are going to the showroom after the race anyway, so might as well just add a couple more stripes to it. And Bowden right in the fence that time through corners number 1 and 2 there, trying to get back up on top of the 33 machine inside of 5 laps to go at Bristol. Do we make it to the end?
That's the question. Do we make it to the end? As you see, Steven Wilson, 2.5 seconds to try and make up on Nick Ottinger. Has clean racetrack in front of him, but again, he's going to need a yellow flag or something of the sort to be able to catch up. You can see 1 space station machine, but my goodness, what an impressive effort here, Evan, by Nick Ottinger, who has just taken it to the best dirt racers, oval racers, what have you. I don't think that any of us had him tabbed as a favorite to come out here on dirt and do as well as he has. But my goodness, has he put on an absolute clinic over this long green flag run.
He has been absolutely incredible thus far. It is going to look for the white flag this next time by Nick Ottinger in the 25 car. Started back in fifth. That was courtesy of a P3 in his heat race. Took till about the final third to get up and in position, but since then, he has been untouchable. 2 more corners to navigate for the driver of the 25 Logitech G Chevrolet, and Nick Ottinger wins the inaugural eNASCAR dirt race at Bristol. And the celebration is on. William Byron Esports and Chevrolet, another race win this year for the Chevy camp. William Byron Esports finds themselves at a victory lane for the first time here in 2022. And as he comes around to the front straightaway, not going to be like a burnout on the asphalt is, but he'll burn her down nonetheless. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And Ottinger continues, Blake, his rise on the list of all-time winners, still second all-time, now with 18 career checkered flags.
And again, the guy he's chasing is out here in Ray Alfala, but just an amazing job by Ottinger, who, again, I don't think we could have tabbed as a favorite to come out here on the dirt and run this well. But my goodness, to that 25 Logitech Chevrolet have some mega long-run pace in it as this track continued to wind down. Clearly a nod to those guys and all the work they did to make sure they had that long-run speed. But what an incredible effort there from Nick Ottinger.
It is an incredible effort, and he'll park it right there on the start-finish line as the race winner in the first ever dirt race in the very long and storied history of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Lived up to the hype, had a lot of chaos early on, but Ottinger was able to settle it on the track. That long green flag to the end as we take a look at your Coca-Cola full race results. Final margin of victory, some 3 seconds over Steven Wilson in second and Graham Boland in third. We'll try to talk with them in just a little bit. Blake Reynolds, Mitchell DeYoung, Casey Kerwin, Logan DeClampett inside of your top 7 and 8.
And you look here at the second page, drivers who were just able to hang on to the lead lap. Guys like Malik Ray, Cody Bias able to finally get himself a top 20 finish. And further on back, Evan, well, not really a night to write home about. Jimmy Mullis there a lap down, and even further on back, many drivers who were either on pit road at the end of the race or had repairs to be able to get their way back out on the racetrack. But here's the Coca-Cola move of the race, and Evan, no better time than the pass for the lead and the win here into turns 1 and 2.
He spoiled the watch party that the Charlotte Phoenix have been having tonight, and of course it was the touch there off of 4, bowling into the outside wall. Of course, we saw lots of physicality in battles for the race lead tonight, and Ottinger spoils the party, gets out in front, and would never look back. Wilson was able to take over second a little bit later on. Of course, Boland, Blake, did have a couple of looks back to the 25, again, right when they caught some of the lap traffic, but that 25 machine out in clean air was untouchable, and it was an impressive drive to victory for Nick Ottinger, and you're chatting with tonight's race winner.
As has become a habit, whether he's winning the pole, of which he won the pole in the first 3 races, he finally knots it off here with a win at the end of the race. Nick Ottinger, not sure if we considered you or tabbed you coming in as a dirt expert, but nonetheless, you put on a clinic there to finish this one.
Yeah, it was tough sledding out there. I don't mean sledding on, ice or nothing like that, but we had to navigate a lot of bumps, and they were treacherous bumps off turn 2 and 4. But we had a really good solid Logitech G machine and product of some off-season prep with Elite Performance Industries, and it paid off. It's just learning how the lines form, and the biggest thing was trying to generate straight drive off and forward bite in this car. And people at Elite Performance Industries helped me out with that, so I want to welcome them. The first race with us, we got them a win. Glad to get TSM another win this year. Logitech G, William Byron Esports, the boss man got a win, Saturday. So I'm glad we can follow it up, and maybe he can, keep that trend going through the weekend and get a couple more wins.
Well, certainly so, and not only a successful weekend for William Byron, winning in the Truck Series of Martinsville, winning the NASCAR Cup Series race on Saturday night, but William Byron sits third of the Cup Series points. You sit now in first place in sole possession after tonight. How does it feel after having so much success early in the year as we've continued to work along to be on the top of the heap so far?
Well, I take a lot of pride in, just making sure I can do the best I can. But also for the supporting, team I'm with. So, it's you're only good as the support system you have around you, and we have the best group around us with our team alliance with, Michael Conti and Junior that too. So, as a credit to our collective, work that we put in, and it's a new challenge. Obviously, it was a new challenge with a new car, starting the year, and now it's a new challenge starting with, dirt too. So, at the end of the day, it's just you're only as good as your support system around you, and train ain't gonna stop here. Got to carry this momentum to Dover, carry that momentum all the way to the end of the year. It's not a one-off. We're here to stay where we're at and actually keep progressing, keep learning, and everyone's at the same boat. Everyone's still learning. But, we're going to do whatever we can with our Logitech G team and, try to keep the points lead and stay up front.
Certainly so, Nick. Well, we won't hold you any longer. The former series champion and now second on the all-time series wins list. We'll let him go celebrate getting it done in the inaugural dirt race here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And we move to the driver who came into tonight with the points lead. Second place finish for the Smithfield Ford and Steven Wilson. But Steven, I know coming into tonight, you were somebody I looked at as a potential favorite to win this race, and you did a solid job staying up front all night and finishing P2.
Yeah, we did all we could. Got to thank all these guys right here, Stuart Haas, everybody that helps us. Want to thank the guys at Dead Zone for the setup help. Want to thank the guys at VLR also. Appreciate those boys. And yeah, but it was a really fun race. Once we got going green there, I think we had a really good pace there on the long run. Just tried keeping the tires on it at the end, and it really helped compared to Graham to get into second. So I just think Nick was better than us just by a little bit, and maybe if we didn't have as much damage as we did, we could have had more pace. But good run all in all, and probably still the points leader, I would assume, so we'll take it.
Well, actually, it'll be Nick Ottinger who passes you there, getting, I believe it's 2 points now, the separation between Nick Ottinger, who now leads the point standings, and you, who finishes in second. But again, this is becoming a bit of a habit for you. Third top five already in this young season. You got a lot of momentum. You got a couple wins. What's the outlook as we go to looking forward to Dover?
Dover's a good track. I do like that track, so hopefully it does continue the momentum that is. And yeah, I mean, second in points is still good. The goal, obviously, is just to be in those playoffs come year end. So keeping that goal forward, keep running well, putting ourselves in a good position, and to do it by itself.
Well, Steven Wilson brings you home second tonight for Stuart Haas Esports and will slot into second in the 2022 point standings. And another driver who I'm sure has a lot of fans watching him in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight, Graham Boland, finishes in third, your pole sitter tonight. And Graham, I know you got to feel happy or finishing up in third tonight. Still haven't gotten that elusive win, but you've been in position a number of times in these races.
Yeah, like fourth race in a row, I feel like I've been up there, so it's kind of like I just want to get the W, but I don't know, what can you do? Nick drove a great race. He kept the right rear on it. After he passed me, we had that little thing for the lead. I tried to push as hard as I can to get back up to him. He just had that drive off, and then my right rear just kept on heating up as the round went on, so the people behind me, because I was kind of just driving really hard to get back up to Nick. I wasn't really thinking about a long term at that point, so we struggled at the end and ended up P3. So I'm happy with the result, but man, I wish it was 2 spots more. But we'll go to Dover, be good, and yeah, I just want to thank Tyler Ducharme, Houston Hammer, and everyone else who worked on the setup, and then also the people at Charlotte Phoenix at the watch party. I wish I got the win. That would have been amazing, but sometimes it's just not meant to be. So see you at Dover.
Well, certainly so. We give a shout out from Texas all the way to Charlotte, North Carolina. The Charlotte Esports Hub hosting an event tonight to support their drivers, and Graham Bolin and Colin Keister. And Evan, we're going to uncover the dirt, put some concrete down, and, well, guess what? There's already concrete at the next track we're going to.
Hey, you want to talk about some more hard and physical racetracks? We stick with that short track theme, and we go race it at the Monster Mile in 2 weeks' time. We head to Dover Motor Speedway on Tuesday, April the 26th for a 120-lap dance with Miles the Monster. It's going to be exciting. It'll also mark round number 6 of 14 on the regular season. Blake, I think it's pretty hard to believe we are almost already halfway through to the start of the postseason.
It's amazing to think, Evan. These races just roll along. It's amazing to think we're almost into May. Will be our next race there, May 10th. We got a little ways to wait for it, but nevertheless, I'm sure these drivers will take a little bit of break, do some reevaluating, and I'm sure find a little bit of speed before we hit a lot of mile and a half. Dover, Kansas, and Charlotte coming up.
We're looking forward to the next time out, but until then, that is it for us here tonight in Thunder Valley. So on behalf of our entire team at iRacing and eNASCAR, the entire team back at Boston, and everybody else on our production team downstairs, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Blake McCandless and James Pike, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and congratulations to Nick Ottinger. Your 2020 champ is back for more, and he has locked himself into the playoffs with a win here tonight. Of course, the season will roll on next time out as we go racing at the Monster Mile in a couple of weeks' time. That race and every race of the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively here at eNASCAR.com/live. Until next time, good night from Bristol.